Hello and welcome to this special edition of Pirate Radio, guys. It is the Season 14 award nominations. Of course, it's powered by Twitch. I better put that in there, or else, John will probably have a go at me for some reason. I'm sorry about all the delays. I have like a 60-year-old laptop, and it's powered by hamsters, and it's shit. So that's why we've had all these problems. But we are just going to go straight into it. Of course, I'm joined by Xavi and Cadus, as per usual. And we will start with some of the lower tier sort of awards sort of things. I don't like to say that, actually. It's probably a bad thing to say as we're about to go into the awards. But we'll leave all the major awards, the MVP and stuff like that, right to the end. But we're just going to dive straight in with the up and coming player of the season, I think. How do you guys want to do this? Do you want to say who you think it is, and then we'll talk about the nominations? Or should we go into the nominations first?
I don't know. I don't really care.
Let's talk about who we think should be there, and then go into who actually.
All right. Well, I'll go into who I put there because honestly, I didn't really know that much, and the only person that really stood out to me in the past season was near the end of it was Delzik, and that's who I voted for. Unfortunately, he didn't actually make it into the nominations. But do you guys want to go into who else you thought in your up and coming player of the season?
I voted. You go, Jason.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. I put it on Hicks because Higgs was the only person I noticed from outside of Prem this season. I didn't pay that much attention, but he murked for us a couple of times. He's a pocket, but he played roam for us a few times, and he'd top damage and shit like that. And he just seems to be a generally pretty good soldier. He's been around for ages, but he's always just been one of those names, one of those names that begin with H, like Huey, Hiss, Hicks. I thought these were the same people for about 3 years. But now they're all starting to shine in their own right, and it's Hicks' turn this season, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually played with Hicks in one of the random cups. Was it Toxic? Was that a map that happened? I think I played with Hicks in that cup, and he was actually a really, really good soldier.
Once upon a time, that was a map.
Yeah, a while ago. Xavi, who do you think is your up-and-coming player of the season?
I voted for Bar from Roberto. From most people know it as Stark's team, the team Stark plays in. Blah blah blah. He plays medic. Yeah, and he's actually really good. Especially when the European medic scene is pretty mediocre at best. A lot of the time, it's good to see a promising medic come up through things. And I also voted for Kuna, the Web 1. Yeah, the Web 1 demo. Just because he seems to hit a lot of shit. He seems to be a good all-round demo coming up.
I thought if anyone got nominated from that team, it would be that Ephage guy. There seems to be a lot of hype for him.
Oh yeah, does he play Scout? Is that right?
Yeah.
In Web 1, yeah. No, he did also win Up and Coming Player of the Season last season. So.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Oh, man, step on it.
Wait for it. Wait for
it. Wait for his moment.
We'll be there eventually.
I have to say, I watched the Web 1 versus Quarantine game, and Kuna had a really, really good game there. He was definitely shutting down the Quarantine team in that promotion game. So, probably worth a shout. Shall I reveal the nominations now?
God, do it, Craig. I can't wait any longer.
Basically,
we've only actually got 2 nominations here. For the up-and-coming player of the season, we only gave everybody a single vote. So
no, we gave everyone 3 votes.
Oh, did
but
we?
What happened is the vast majority of answers was, I don't have any friends below Prem. was a lot of the answers, which was okay. And the only players who got more than a single vote, so there's no reason to nominate someone for a single vote, were, drum roll please, Kuna and Hicks.
You're supposed to wait for the drum roll.
Well, we actually going to drum roll me, or were we just going to sit here awkwardly in silence waiting for a drum roll?
So yeah, Kuna and Hicks will be the 2 votes you have, the 2 options you have for the up-and-coming player of the season vote, guys. So do you guys want to say who you think out of those 2? Might as well go into it now. If I had to vote, I think I would go Kuna. I think he impressed me a bit more this season. I've seen more of him. I think that's probably why I'd say that. Xavi?
Hicks. I'll go for Hicks.
All right. Cadus? Who would you reckon if you had to take a choice between those 2?
Well, I said I would nominate Hicks, so standing by my boy.
Fair enough. All right, well, we'll move on to the next topic then. We'll go on to the Prem debut of the season. This obviously only has a few real players that we could possibly put into it. So, Xavi, do you actually have the list of the 8 players, I think it was, or 9 players that could possibly be voted for?
Exactly, not to hand. Hold on. Here we go. The list of applicable players are Mitzi, T-Mac, Alma, Salt, Ixon, Bull, Gladiator, Septique, and myself.
Did you play this season?
Yeah, man, I got beaten by Epsilon in 15 minutes over 2 months.
Up and coming player of the season. Oh, not up
I
and coming. Sorry, best Prem
I
debut.
got the most sarcastic votes for Prem debut of the season.
How many votes did you get?
I got 3, but lots of them had in brackets. Lol, did you even play? Or like, not really. So I didn't want to count them as actual votes.
Did you just get like 5-0, 5-0 in the one game you did play?
Yeah, in 15 minutes over 2. That's 2 maps, 15 minutes. We lost Gullywash in 7 minutes.
So your Prem debut consisted of 15 fucking minutes.
Hey man, I'm an efficient guy. I have a lot of other stuff to do, so I had to get it out of the way, you know.
It's like cameo appearances that are like longer than that.
To be fair, all 6 of the Pyrogen players are effectively cameo appearances as well. It's like
They played 3 matches and lost all of them. Am I right in saying?
I think. Did they even play 3 matches? Are you sure? I thought
Who?
they like folded after 1 or something.
Pyrogen.
They played a couple.
As I say, because like the Pyrogen team were basically the Prem debut of the season category.
I remember they were doing bad, like worse than they'd hoped, and then they lost to QN like after things had already gotten bad, so they had to have played more than one game.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that you thought Brago was going to be in this category as well, but he unfortunately had played like a couple of seasons ago.
He played 3 or 4 matches for Deserter when they reformed halfway through the season, so you can't really call it a Prem debut when he's had half a season in Prem, basically.
Unlucky.
Yeah.
Whether it's Merkin or not, it's yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. I felt this category. I actually only nominated 2 players. I didn't really want to nominate a third. I just went T-Mac and Mitzi. It's very, very straightforward from there, from my point of view. Cadus, who did you vote for?
I think I actually went the same as you with T-Mac and Mitzi. I'm desperately like going through my fucking notepad files trying to find it. Yeah, the thing is with Mitzi though, like I think I did write him down eventually. Found it. Can't find the particular nomination. Yeah, I did write Mitzi down, but like he was pretty anonymous. I felt like he's just kind of surrounded by talent. But at the end of the day, if you win the fucking Prem in your first season, like you get a vote.
Doing something right.
You get a vote.
Yeah.
I have to say, I really disagree with you. Like every game that I watched with Epsilon, he was pretty much at least in the top 2 fraggers on the map. Like pretty much every game I watched, and that's the PCWs and the officials. I thought Mitzi had a really fucking good season.
I didn't particularly notice him. Like I'm not judging it one way or the other. For me, just I don't watch Pocket Soldiers that much anyway.
That's the thing with Pocket Soldier. Their frags just turn over in a game, and you don't really notice it that much because the demo will do a lot of damage, and they'll clear up a frag here and there, and that sort of thing, and then they'll just end up hits sitting above 30 frags. I watched a game when they played against CC, and he had 48 frags or something like that, and I was just like sat there like I didn't even watch him. I didn't think he got that many frags. I looked at the frags at the end of the game, and he sat there for almost 50, and I'm scratching my head like what?
Like this becomes like. It becomes even weirder, like for Mitzi, when you consider that apart from this season, in season play of ETF2L, he has prior to season 14, he has 2 matches under his belt, one in Div 3 and one in Div 2. So it's not even his Prem debut as much as his ETF2L debut.
It's so weird because everyone's aware of him as a player. Like everyone, like around the top scene, people know who Mitzi is. People will, like, I'm presuming you'd be comfortable with Mitzi Merkin for you on Soldier. Like people don't not know who he is. He's just never settled into a team or had a team at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zavi, do you want to go into your nominations as well?
Okay. Yeah, I went for. I went for
T-Mac as well, by the way.
Yeah, as I say, T-Mac, just because he played well in Pyrogen and then he moved to CC and did even better in like a bet. We're surrounded by better support characters. I voted for Salt because even though he was only there for a small bit, I was really impressed in the small bit he was there. And I voted for Mitzi because, yeah, he won the fucking league in his first season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's like the 3 only real choices I have to say that were there.
Well, you say
choice?
My third choice was Mitzi.
But who was
Mitzi, Salt and T-Mac.
Oh, Salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yes,
yeah, into the results. T-Mac was a runaway favourite, having a shitload of votes. Mitzi behind him, pretty standard choices. When it got really close for third choice, Salt got 5 nominations, Septique got 4. So Salt narrowly like heads into the vote. But I think it's going to be between T-Mac and Mitzi. But even then, I think T-Mac's going to storm it in terms of final votes for Prem debut.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like, T-Mac did have a really good season as well. Like,
I don't know if anyone has anything to say about Septique getting like narrowly 4th.
like he's a good scout. I didn't really see him play any of the games. I didn't watch the first half of the season, so I didn't really see him play that many games.
I think it says more about the category and how there's not that many people to vote for.
It's kind of like people would be looking at the list and there's 3 soldiers they've voted for, so maybe they'll go, oh, maybe I don't want to vote for 3 soldiers. Who else can I vote for? Septique, decent scout, possibly worth a shot up there. I mean, as you said, Salt only played a few games at the beginning of the season as well. Like, does he, it's a bit of a toss-up, I feel, between the two of them, and Salt
It's always hard to nominate the Pyrogen players for anything when they played 3 matches and then folded. No matter how good they looked in those 3 matches, it's not even half a season. So
yeah, well, like one of the categories, I found it hard to vote for Bash just because he didn't play in the actual final of the whole tournament. So, like the fact that Pyrogen didn't only play 3 matches, to me, I didn't vote for them at all. I don't think ever in any of these. Like it kind of feels like that doesn't really count, especially as like a Prem debut of the season. Like playing 3 matches, it's not really. You're not really playing a full season of Prem. It's just you're playing a few matches.
It just feels like as well like too long ago to even properly judge. Like the only thing of Pyrogen this season I remember is the hilarious like manner in which they went out. Like honestly can't remember a single thing they did. Like in the other matches, I only remember that one on Snake Water where they just like went ballistic.
Capitulated.
I remember them beating Potentials as well. That's the other one I remember from them.
Oh yeah, the Potentials. It seems like a distant memory.
Let's keep moving up the list. Let's go for the next section. One of the more interesting sections. I think this one will go for off class of the season right now. Cadus, do you want to go into your nominations first?
Scroll. I went for very originally. I went for Tvik and T-Mac. Tvik and Tech, his twin brother, as it were. Yeah. They both made Hat cry more than anyone else, so they can take it from me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Zabby?
I couldn't even think of someone else to nominate, to be honest.
I went for Tvig and Tech as well, just because, same reasons as Cadus. And I also went for Dan, just because... No. In the season, Dan seemed to hit shit as sniper. I don't think he's a good sniper, but in the season, he made stuff happen.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
I went the same way as you guys. Like, Tvik had an awesome season. Like, he across all his games, he puts up these ridiculous damage numbers, and it's always because he gets inflated damage from playing sniper and hitting headshots a ridiculous amount of time. Tech, he's always the player in Broder, or generally the player in Broder that off classes and just switches things up and changes a lot of things for their team and makes the difference. I also voted for Cookie as well because a few times he went sniper and he was hitting his shots, but obviously he didn't go sniper enough that many people voted for him. He only got 4 nominations. Tvik got 10. Tech got 7. So that's probably, as you would expect, skewed. And it wouldn't surprise me if Tvik just ran away with it again, especially with his Highlander fanboyisms, as per usual.
I think you're underestimating the French community, man. They're going to get behind Tech. I think Cookie was probably a good shout. I think he probably is as good, if not better, than both of them. But he just doesn't seem to snipe that much. Yeah, he doesn't do it that much anymore. Like, even I think back to BFF, he didn't do it that much then either, and going back even further.
I think it's just been a change in TF2 as a whole. Now, the Roma seems to be the person who now snipes rather than a scout, which used to be the old default choice if you wanted to sniper off class.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Cookie's reason is a bit deeper than that, though. I think he just feels like... I think it's more to do with Cookie and the team. I don't know. No one can interpret Cookie's thought train, and no one can do that. But I don't know. Cookie's always really important to his team as scout. Yeah. It always seems like he's always like vital for them. So I guess maybe he felt the pressure and didn't have that much freedom to fuck about doing this kind of stuff, as it were. To quote Mike.
Definitely. And Tech is always the one, in general, be the one that dies a lot earlier in the fights, and then he's spawning quicker, so they always just end up probably swapping to Tech. I mean, sometimes, maybe the few times that Cookie does die in the middle early, and then he's the one that swaps the sniper in those few times he dies early.
I should mention a special anti-nomination for Ibs, who I purposefully didn't vote for despite his relentless efforts all fucking season to spice things up or whatever.
All
Fuck
his
off.
spy back caps that he would always
It's
go
fucking
for.
pirate bullshit coming into last, like just embarrassing every time you see it.
Disabled off classer of the season.
Yeah, let's move on to
Well,
the next
I want to make a quick shout out. Like, you know how you said Cookie got 4 votes.
Yep.
Just behind Cookie and 4 votes was Koichi with 3 votes. He was unlucky not to get a nomination, which I presume is almost entirely Forno's 2 sentry denials he got on Numlock jumping into Snake Water last. I presume that's the entire basis for any of his votes. But
I don't remember this. What happened?
it was when QN played Epsilon, and it was awkwardly close for a while before Epsilon remembered they were Epsilon and just won the game. And Epsilon were pushing Snake Water last, and Numlock jumped in, died to a sentry. Then a couple of pushes later, did the exact same thing and died to a sentry in a pretty similar position, and just... Yeah, like, the sentry held it for quarantine on, like, 2 separate occasions against Epsilon.
Maybe we should have nominated the sentry.
Maybe we should... Maybe I should have specified that in, like, the awards, like, the Koichi sentry gun is an option in...
If I'd known about that, I might have voted for Koichi instead of Cookie, and that would have pushed him up there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next category, which is we're gonna do most surprising team of the season. We have 2 categories for this. One's in a good way and one's in a bad way, because every season when we've done this, like when people try and nominate, everyone like gives different reasons for it, and everyone gives like a good surprising team or a bad surprising team. So we decided to split them up this time. Let's go for the bad surprising team first, I think. I will say who I voted for. Obviously, the main vote, which from my point of view was Pyrogen. Like they did so well in the playoffs, beating potentials, getting into Prem. They started out looking really, really decently. They had some bad results and then just folded. That's obviously what it felt like and what it looked like. And it felt like they could have like pushed forward in Prem and possibly stayed in it. Like won a few games against the lower sort of teams, and that's the main reason I voted for them. And then the other team I actually voted for was Potentials, just because I was just that made me laugh so much. Zavi, do you want to go into your votes?
I was going to say, the funnest award was the fact that you voted Potentials, like, most surprisingly bad team of the season. I don't think it was that surprising. But, yeah, I vote for Pyrogen just because... And they're the only team that folded, and any team that folds, especially that early on to the season, is always going to be disappointing. Just because, even if the team's not particularly good, you want to see them go through the season. And, like, I don't think they were... Like, I know they were having a bad time, but they weren't so far away from the other teams that it was a problem. You know, like, it's not like they were going to lose every game 5-0 no matter how well they played. They had the potential to take, like, maps and points off the other team, like, the lower end of Prem, like, around the QN Doctrinal Pokemon. I don't really get why they folded other than internal rage.
Yeah, and going to that point, actually, like, this sort of award used to be, like, the most sportsman-like team, didn't it? And it used to be basically given to the team in Prem that lost every single game but didn't fold. And they lost a few and then just called it quits after working so hard to get towards it. But Kalis, who did you vote for? Who do you nominate?
Is this the in a bad way?
Yeah, in a bad way.
I put QN down because they were my Wigan Athletic. I've said this before. They always like hold it together and manage to stay in Prem, but they didn't this time, and I thought they would manage it nonetheless. I didn't put Pyrogen down because I pretty much called it like play for play what happened to them at the start of the season. I said it was too early for them and they were just going to crumble and fold eventually. I don't know. Like, I think that could have been a surprise for some people, but not for me. So I just left it at QN. And I think everyone else did pretty much what I expected them to do.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Zavi, do you want to go into the who got how many nominations? Because we might have a few competing for the bottom spot.
Commander X has chosen this moment to actually go AFK, so
Oh, okay, I'll just go into it then. Well, Pyrogen got 9
Wait, I'm back right
nominations.
now.
Ooh, he's back. Why don't you go into it then, Zavi?
What am I going into?
The
bad.
nominations. Who got how many votes for in most surprising
Okay,
team of the season
yeah.
in a bad way.
There's a few votes all around, but yeah, Pyrogen got the most by far, then QN, and then BFF.
Yep. Anybody close to BFF as well or not?
BFF got 4, Broder and CC got 2 apiece. Not really that close. I think everyone would like I as well was it was kind of same boat. Expecting more from BFF.
Who voted for Broder and CC in most surprising team in a bad way?
Bad way.
That's
What? What? Sorry guys,
That's-
you didn't beat Epsilon. That's terrible, lads. Just fuck off. Jesus. Bother.
Oh god.
I say, I can-
I guess the CC one you can maybe give them for choosing some bad maps in their game versus Broder. I don't know, but a bit of controversy
But
maybe.
it's sort of the same in the way you thought. Yeah, like BFF put up the least fight of the top 4, which is what I think a lot of the people expected more from.
Hey.
No offense, Soz
We
Jace.
took a
People
map
thought,
from
thought they'd be a
CC.
bit closer to CC and Broder.
You took a map from CC.
We
Oh,
tied with
congrats.
CC.
You
Just happened to
took-
drop a map to like the. What's the problem, brother?
congrats, Jason. Good job. I'm really proud of you.
Well, no, who expected us to beat them? Like,
I'll put the results on the fridge for you.
I'm just saying. What?
Right, let's
I
move on to
don't
the
know
next
what you're
one.
doing.
We're gonna do the most surprising team of the season in a good way. Cadus, do you want to go into your nominations?
In a good way.
Yep.
I didn't nominate anyone for this. There were no good surprises. Like my DGB or whatever they ended up being called took a map from us, which I guess maybe they could have deserved a nomination for that, but I didn't actually put them down because at the end of the day they finished 5th, which was exactly where I expected them to finish. Like the season just played out how I expected it to for me. Like played like position apart from QN, who finished lower than Doctrinal. I thought they'd edge it or something, or like I thought QN would survive, at least win their fucking playoff game. But they decided to fold. Like apart from that, Prem finished like rank for rank where I expected it to.
Yeah, honestly, the one thing obviously in CC finished second. Yeah, before going to the playoffs and then lost to Broder in the playoffs. So from my point of view, I put CC there because of that Broder game, which I was not expecting them to win whatsoever. I think they won it 4-2 1 points in the end or something like that, wasn't it? So like I didn't expect them to win that at all. So that's why I put CC there. Like obviously, however many seasons in a row, CC always get put in this most surprising team of the season. But they, there's always a reason for it. And this season they have T-Mac, new player, Brago. He's not really played much Prem. So, like from my point of view, I didn't really know how they would handle those 2 new players coming into the Prem, and that's why I put them in the most surprising team in a good way. And then I voted for Pokemon as well because of it. It felt like they, performed pretty well. Kyler playing well, that sort of thing. Like they performed above my expectations, and that's why I voted for them. It was quite a hard category because, as you say, most people ended up where you would expect them to. Xavi, what did you think?
Yeah, I voted for Pokemon just because going into the season, I thought they was going to be like rock bottom, like. And then they just kind of pulled a roster out of nowhere and ended up putting good results together and good performances. Everything just kind of worked and they got forwards. I was voted for Doctrinal for similar reasons. Like, Spin just seemed to pull a roster out of his fucking ass, then did okay in Prem with it. Like, a lot of that was down to a few individual players like Erectus and Harblue, but he still pulled a roster out of basically, when it looked like they were folded, he pulled a roster out before the deadline. And did reasonably well with that roster, which is a lot more than I expected. Even if it's not as big an achievement, it's still a lot more than I expected from that team.
Actually going to the nominations, none of us even nominated the team that got the most nominations here, which was Broder. Obviously, I guess no one ever expected them to be quite as close to Epsilon as it was in the final, but obviously Epsilon had Bash, so you can never really tell that from that point of view. But obviously. They didn't have it there,
yeah.
so it's Broder still performed well. They couldn't change anything, could they? So that's probably why they got a few votes up there. Then it's Crack Clan and Pokemon behind them. Did anybody else come close in the nominations, Xavi?
Yeah, Crack Clan had 6, Pokemon had 5, and then both Doctrinal and Epsilon had 2 each. I presume the Epsilon nominations are more just because they thought it's the same thing that happens every season. People expect Epsilon to fall flat and get complacent and just give up basically and just presume they're going to win and then get caught out, but Epsilon never do. And obviously Epsilon came back almost stronger than ever really in this season than previous ones.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, let's move on to another category. I'll skip past some of these ones here because we're going to leave these 2 categories right till the end. That's the MVP and the overall best player of the season. Those 2 will be left right to the end, guys. So we're going to be going actually into the classes now. Which class do you guys want to start with?
Scout.
Scout. Oh, why don't you go into your Scout nominations?
Shit. Was there a limit on this? I put 4 people down. Was
I was
that
about to
allowed?
say, yeah, no, it wasn't. I picked for 3. Like, I ignored the one that had least relevance, if that makes sense. Like,
Right. Okay. I'll just go into my top 3 then. I put Stefan, Bash, and Cookie. I don't think there was really. I'll be really, really surprised if those 3 aren't the nominees. To be honest. My 4th was Kyler. I put him down just because he was so impressive in such a mid-tier team. Like he stuck out so much that I felt he deserved a shout. But Stefan, Bash, and Cookie took it by like a country mile for me. Like Stefan and Bash, it's hard to separate them for me this season. Cookie got a nomination just because he's Cookie, but I think he was like definitely 3rd on my nomination list. Like he didn't have the greatest of finals, which was where a lot of the judgment seems to come from for these nominations. Like people look at the playoffs a lot more than they do the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. Xavi, what did you put your nominations down for here?
I went for Stefan, Bash, and Cookie. Yeah, like the default 3. Like, they were just above everyone else. Like, in the same thing that Kaya said, Kyler deserves a special mention for, like, out of all the nominations, the only 2 players who got nominated from a below top 4 team was Zappis and Kyler. And Zappis only got 1 nomination, whereas Kyler got 4. So, like,
Well,
it's just kind of...
Zappis started out really strong, I thought, but then just seemed to fizzle.
Well, I was one of the people that actually voted for Kyler. So, like, I voted Bash, Cookie, and Kyler. I didn't put Stefan in personally. He might have had a good playoffs, but like mid-season, I didn't. The games I watched him play in the season, I felt he didn't really play anywhere near the standard he normally does. Like, Cookie had his standard, like, let's carry, other than the final. Kyler was just carrying his team, like, on his back alone, like, single-handedly. He was playing so impressively. That
I don't know if anyone's ever watched Kyler's stream, but I watched it a couple of times when he was with Pokemon, and he'd just engage in one-on-one, beat the scout, go behind the other team. A soldier would come back for him. He'd kill the soldier, and he'd just be like, "Oh, I'm behind, guys. Oh, I've killed a soldier, guys." And then the rest of his team would still be holding. He's just taking on the flank by himself, and he seems just holding, not giving them any support at all. And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm still behind, guys. Okay, I've killed another scout in a one-on-one. I'm still behind."
Then he sport kills 2 more players
Oh,
as well.
yeah. Oh, you're pushing mid now. Oh, okay, cool. I've just died right now, because you didn't push in when I was like getting a 2-man and whatever. But okay, cheers. And I think next season, when you see him in BFF, a team who can like compete a lot more with the top 4 teams and offer him some actual support, you're going to see him really excel.
Season, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I felt I had to vote for him, so that's where I really put that. Obviously, the 3 nominations, as Xavi has already said, are just Bash, Cookie, and Stefan. So that's who you'd be voting for. As you said, Kyler was 4 votes, was it? And then Bash was on 9. So.
Yeah, what I want to point out as well is a couple of people got the occasional vote, like Beav and Samsy Tavik got a couple of votes, but Bibbin also got 4 votes. So I think that shows. I know Bibbin plays a lot of an understated role, especially alongside like Cookie and Zebasai in his team. But I think Bibbin's role as like just controlling everything, keeping everything slightly more in order and organized is a lot understated compared to like the meat shot machine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Bibbin and Sam, even though they're not, I wouldn't put them on the same plane as the top 3. I think they both definitely had really good seasons.
All right.
They helped hold their team together a lot more.
Yeah, like for Sam, like he plays that kind of role where it's like it's not that wow, if you know what I mean. Like it's really passive and playing like a good team role and then cleaning up. So it's hard to really like shit your pants over it. But like he definitely did in his role, he played excellently the whole season.
He also plays the role that CC thrive on. They play this really defensive sort of role, waiting for someone to overextend, and then Sam will be the person that kills the overextended player, and then they'll push on together off the back of that. Like he enables them to be able to push forward, is what it feels like.
Yeah, and when you're partnered with Tvik as well, like you have to be
extra
be that
careful,
basically.
extra responsible.
Yeah, it's like a yin and a yang with Tvik. Like for all his like amazing plays and sick work, there's a lot of like times where he dies and does nothing. Like, because it's a high risk reward game, so it requires a scout on the other end of things that's keeping everything together. So I think like Sam was crucial to his team in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Which category do you want to go for next then? Should we go to Demoman? Should we go towards Cadis' own category this time around?
Oh god.
Zavi, do you want to go first this time?
I nominated Numlocked and Cadus because even though other demo men had good performances, I felt those two were just in a category of their own. Like no one else was in the same category. Like no one else was close to them out of the other demo men, even though it was pretty close between those two. I think the only difference between Cadus and Numlocked is Numlocked had a better supporting cast. Otherwise, if Cadus was an Epsilon, Epsilon would have won. It's not like, yeah, there's no difference between the two, basically.
Okay, so let's say there's a Nations Cup next week. Who do you pick? Cadus or Numlock? Zavi, go. Pick me one.
Cadus, because he's more malleable than Numlocked. If Numlocked plays, he has to play Numlock style. He has to have all the heals and be the centre of a team. Cadus can do that, or Cadus can be a lot more, like, if Mike was to be pocket in Team UK, he can let Mike have a lot more heals and he can play a lot more of a roamer role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that. I see someone in chat saying Randa, so maybe I'd pick Randa.
Randa, bring him
He's
back,
playing
Big
next
Sam.
season in Ramon's team. He's
Big
back.
Samda,
So.
Big Samda.
Oh god. Taking Div 2 by storm.
Everyone in Prem,
okay.
strap in, please.
Actually, I'll go into my demo man choices before Cadus goes into his. I went for the same as Zavi, Numlocked and Cadus, but I actually voted for Brago as well. I thought he had a really outstanding season. Like he hits so many pipes, ridiculous amount of pipes. Maybe he overextends a little bit in CC, and they get caught out sometimes because of it. But I thought he had a really outstanding season. Cadus, what do you think?
I just went with Numlocked. I didn't have my best season really. I don't think I played bad, but when you come fourth and you don't really participate in the playoffs to that extent, I think it's really hard to put yourself in that way. Rib and Brago, Rib stepped it up toward the end of the season, but as a whole, his season wasn't good. When it counted, he came through, but really you still have to judge. Like I know the playoffs count for a bit more, but you have to judge the season as a whole.
He had his best game in the final, though. You have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I do give him credit for that. But as a season as a whole, it wasn't a good one for him, really. Like,
I agree.
I mean, it's completely fair enough. I mean, he hadn't touched the fucking game for years. Like, it was naturally going to take him
It's
some
not
time.
surprising, but yeah, like he'll be a lot better next season, I imagine. Now he seems a lot more settled and premming up with the pace, but the awards are for this season, and yeah.
Yeah, as for Brago, like undoubtedly he's a really strong DM, but I wouldn't say he was. I don't think he really was on the same plane though. Like as far as the entire Demoman performance comes along, like definitely like held his own, did a good job. But I think like one season, maybe 2 seasons for him to really like grab everything by the neck and just like really take control at like that top tier. Like he seems like. I know that he had like a shitload of help from Ips. Like he's still learning to play at that level. He's doing a terrific job of it, but it's going to be a little while for him, in my opinion, before he can really be like compared to like Numlocked.
So you're saying like maybe then in the next season you'll be praising him then.
If he isn't here next season, I'll be incredibly surprised. But for this season, not yet, not for me.
I've got to say as well, like with Cadus, he had to like put his team on his back a lot of the time. He had to like pull his team through the bad results. Whereas a few times this season, Numlock played like trash, but he got away with it because of the players on his team.
I played like shit as well, but we didn't get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you know what I mean? Like
stinkers, man.
Numlocked won every game this season because Epsilon were always going to win every game this season, no matter how bad an individual player played. There's enough other good players, enough good other carry players.
Yeah, like the stars would have to fucking align for Epsilon to have
Like,
lost. Like everyone had their worst game ever.
Bash, Numlock, Stefan, Mike all to have terrible games, and then Nox to refuse to com as well, or something. Like it'd be like an impossible thing. Whereas Cadus had a lot more pressure.
Like it could happen though. Like obviously they play a lot on hype. That if you manage to shut a couple of players down early in the game, they might like get their heads drop and that sort of thing can happen. But obviously it didn't in the season, and it's kind of a very big if sort of thing. Did anybody else get nominations in the Demoman category?
Yeah, Cadus.
I just deserved a few, I think.
I was about to say, I reveal it now. That Cadus and Numlocked and Brago stormed it basically. Numlocked 14, Cadus 12, Brago 9. Rib got 3 nominations, presumably just because he got to the final and that sort of thing. Erectus got 2 nominations, and so the only other demo man outside those 4 to get nominations. And I think Erectus is massively underrated, just because he's either been like a Taimu team or he's now in this like the team spin through together last season, damage control, trial, whatever you want to call them. but he hits everything really. Like he does so much damage and so much work for his team. Now, if you put him in with that better supporting cast, he could really excel and really surprise everyone.
Yeah, looking back, I kind of feel like I wish I'd nominated Erectus in the same way that I nominated Kyler, where he wasn't the best. He wasn't on that level, but just because of like the team he was working
Outstanding.
with, it was just a very impressive like demo man performance, as it was an impressive scout performance for Kyler, just because of like his supporting cast. Like to do that in that environment, it's impressive.
Fair enough. Do you not think Gubbins maybe pulled a few results out of the bag as well?
Gubbin played.
He played well considering it
played
was his
well.
first full season as demo man at a high level.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Brago for me, but not to the same extent. I think Brago was much better, but it's the same kind of thing. Like really good, like some really good DM, some really like strong performances, but overall not that accomplished a performance.
Fair enough. Let's move on to a different category then. Let's go to Roma of the season. I think we'll go there. Zavi, do you want to go into your 3 nominations?
Yes. What about my question? This one. Yeah, Roma was Mike and Tech. Mike was one of the best players in the season. He can't get a nomination no matter what. Tech as well. It's just a level ahead of other Romas. I also nominated Harblu just because he contributed so much to that team in terms of calls. Like I've merked from a few times, which gives me more of a knowledge, like more of an insight. But he added so much to that team in terms of comms. Not to mention, considering his reputation as an idiot who jumps around a lot, he hit everything basically when I was playing with him. And when I watched him play, he hit everything as well. And I think he was a lot. He deserves more credit than Europe gives him.
He makes plays.
Who's this?
Harbu. He makes
yeah.
plays. Whenever I've watched him play or played with him, he just pulls something out of the bag that you're just not expecting whatsoever. I went with the same.
I thought
voice as
Harblu
you,
played
Mike.
Pocket for most of this season.
Did he?
He played Pocket before the season started, and when the season started, he swapped to Roma.
I thought it was the other way around.
It was he might have played the opening couple of games as Pocket, but played the majority as Roma.
I think you're incorrect.
Oh, really?
I think that's what I don't know. That's what Septic told me. So.
Apparently, some other people are saying he played Pocket in the chat. Maybe we'll keep going on the other top. Cadis, why don't you go into your nominations and I'll try and find out if anybody knows more about this.
I think I put Mike and Tech. I think I put both Mike and Tech down, but at the end of the day, it's a one horse race. This one, like Tech was good, but Mike was the best. I think Mike's the best roamer in the world at the moment, to be honest. At least the best actively playing roamer in the world.
Who's roaming for BP?
Tag.
Tagarung, yeah.
He's
one
of their weaker links, probably. Yeah. He's not bad, but he's not
weak. He's the weakest link in a very strong team.
Yeah.
He's like the Mitzi of.
Yeah, and like Mix Up have Enigma. Like actually Seagull. I'm not sure if Seagull's back on Pocket now, but when
he's on Rome, I think for LAN he's on Rome.
Yeah, if Seagull's roaming, then Mike and Seagull outclass everyone by a mile.
All right, that's fair enough. Is Blaze not playing roaming anymore?
He's not playing in a team at the moment, as far as I'm aware.
Fair enough. So like the main 2 choices in this nominations are Mike and Tech. There is one other nomination.
It was pretty close between the rest. I'll go into it then. Yeah, Harblu and Ips both finished on 4. Ips obviously started the season on Rome and seemed to draw a lot of fans for his Rome style in that. And then narrowly behind on 3 votes apiece were Lime and T-Mac, who I think are a lot more up-and-coming roamers and like the more established thing. But I think they both, especially T-Mac, has a lot of potential. Lime as well is able to make those 6 shots that make a roamer stand out.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to break into this sort of category when you have someone like of Mike's quality up there, really, isn't it? It's the same sort of thing as we wouldn't nominate anybody other than like Mike, maybe Tech, and that's about it. Ips I didn't really actually think about. Like to me, I just think of him as a pocket. I know obviously at the beginning of the season he started on Rome, but to me he's more of a pocket soldier. I don't know. Maybe that's just
is this
I feel.
Ips?
Yeah.
Yeah, I consider him a pocket now as well, even though he played a lot of the season on Rome. But as far as the categories go, as a roamer, I wouldn't nominate him. But as pocket, he might. I didn't nominate him, but it wouldn't have been outrageous to do it.
He'd be more understandable, yeah. I think.
Yeah.
I
think I voted for him in pocket actually. Well, let's talk about pocket now because we've discussed roamers. So let's go into the pocket of the season. Oh, well, I'll go into mine then. As I said, I've already nominated it. So I thought he had a really good end of the season, especially trying to control that team when he took over the main comms and everything with the team, and trying to force them into adapting their play style. It always feels like to me that he is one of the main driving force behind them reviewing demos, getting their team better and stuff like that. And he consistently tries to improve his own game style, and you can tell between every game that he gets better in different aspects of his game. And right at the end of the season, I thought he was playing really, really well, so I voted for him. Obviously, Zebasai, the way that Broda plays is this very Americanized style where he takes the full Uber because Rib plays his defensive style. He takes the full Uber, so he is always the sole focus when you watch an Uber fight with Broda. And because they single Uber, he always gets so much out of it. At the end of the Uber, in theory, he should get a lot done. So a lot of people are going to be drawn to how Zebasai plays pocket, and going to be, that's why I think a lot of people voted for him. In fact, he got every single person voted for him, didn't they, in this category? So
well, 15 out of 18 people voted for Zebasai.
Did we do 18? Did we?
Yeah, 15 out of 18. But yeah, again with I know what you mean. Obviously Zebasai gets a lot of Uber, so he's going to get a lot of damage. He's going to get a lot of heals. He can put out more damage, but he still has to get it done. When you look at a lot of the reason European teams don't just solo with the soldier is because the soldier doesn't have the abilities to get that much done as say TLR would or Seagull would with a solo Uber, which is why they don't get it, because you won't get as much done. It's just common sense, which is why I think even though Zebasai shines a bit more than he should do because of the solo Ubers, he still hits everything when he goes in with an Uber. He still deserves the credit for being a pocket soldier.
He still does so much damage with it, but from my point of view, every time I watch Broda play, every time I watch him play, it feels like me watching ESEA a while ago when I was commentating it, watching Seagull lead his Ubers and just do so well out of it. It just feels like the same sort of play, and that's what I'm mainly talking about. That, but obviously he hits so much damage. That's why they do it, because it works so well for them. The other person I voted for was Mitzi, the same sort of reason I talked about him earlier. I thought he had a really good season. So other people maybe think he didn't shine as well as he could have done in Epsilon. He sat there with 5 amazing players. It's hard for him to shine, especially as a pocket soldier in that sort of situation. And I thought he had a really good job from it anyway. Cadis, do you want to go into your nominations?
I think I just put Zeb down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ips is the hard one for me. I wouldn't have put Hawks down. Hawks didn't play that good. He didn't even barely play, as a matter of fact. Mitzi was just too anonymous for me. Might have deserved a shout, but didn't really notice him too much. The Epsilon games are so quick; they didn't even get a chance to be seen. Ips is the hard one for me here. I didn't write him down, but this is the thing with these nominations. You write them all in one go. Looking back, if I wrote them right now, I think maybe I might have written Ips down as well, but I didn't as it happened. But I don't really like to nominate just one person. But Zeb was definitely number one for me. But I think Ips probably deserved a mention.
Right, fair enough. Zavi, what did you? Who did you
So I went Zebo, I went Hawks. I know Hawks wasn't as he didn't practice all the time, but I still felt compared to everyone else, he got stuff done, and I think he adapted his style. That was very much the traditional pocket role where he just stands by the medic and shoot things. He adapted to be a lot more aggressive and a lot more. He got other stuff done, and he was able to adapt to fit into BFF, which is always it doesn't sound like a big deal, but a lot of players can't really adapt their play style to work with a team, and they just hope they find a group of players that work around them in the same way. So I think Hawks is a big thing there.
It's worth pointing out actually that Hawks last season whenever he played with TCM, Byte wanted to play this really, really passive role. He played that for a full season. He kind of got drawn into playing like that. So when he went to BFF, it was probably quite hard for him to change his play style to be that sort of more aggressive sort of thing. So obviously he adapted his play style much better throughout the season.
Yeah, it's something with Cadus. It's impressive being malleable as a player. It shows a greater range of attributes.
Hawks is like an innate sissy, man. I remember in TCM, Byte was screaming getting hoarse. He did want him to be passive some of the time, but he wanted him to be a little bit more adaptive than he was. And Byte just screaming, "Hawks, fucking jump, gotta take the high ground, Hawks!" I'll never forget. Never forget.
Do you want to go into what the nominations were then?
I was for my votes. This person wasn't nominated, but I wanted to vote for Haunter because Haunter was very much seen as one of those people who was a good caller and a mediocre to poor pocket soldier in that sort of role. You know what I mean? Like the MVP role, if everyone remembers the German player MVP. He wasn't he wasn't a top DMer, he wasn't a top gamer, but his calls added so much to the team. He was in the team for that reason. That's how everyone was seeing Haunter. But this season, really saw Haunter just hit everything. Like he hit his rockets, and his shotgun was superb compared to like it was on the same level as Sebasai, if not better. And like Hox, so I think it was better than Hox, at least on the same level as Sebasai. He just hit everything, and he really made it work and helped his team out. And I presume as well, he had a lot to calls in that team as well, given the inexperience of the rest of the roster. So I think he deserves a special mention.
It's probably worth relating him to maybe Nox last season, when Nox was playing Soldier, calling, and maybe not quite the same Soldier standard, but was in that team for his calling sort of thing.
Yeah,
like,
but I think what I'm saying is like Haunter stepped Haunter even always did that, but I think Haunter went beyond this season and added the DM that he was always missing from his set of skills.
Fair enough. So he stepped it up pretty much this season.
But going into the votes, Haunter and Minimu's bottom ranked votes with 2 apiece. Ips came pretty close with 5, and the top 3 were Mitzi with 6, Hox with 9, and then Zebo with a clear 15 going out into the front.
Big Zebo.
I think that's probably going to be a pretty big runaway as well in the actual votes. There's one more class left to do, I think. We've jumped around in different directions, so we're down to Medic now, and then we've got the carry the season and stuff like that to do afterwards. So let's go into Medic, and Zabby, why don't you go first?
I'll say I went for Nox, Merlin, and a Hat. Nox, great caller, solid all-round medic play, blah, blah. Merlin can't be hit, and those clutch movement sprees he goes on basically really add to his team. But I think if anyone was to win the award for best medic, it has to be Hat, because Hat doesn't have the same weaknesses as the other players. Like Merlin's good at movement, but he can't do other stuff. He like overextends a lot. Nox is a lot more all-rounded, but he doesn't excel at everything. Whereas Hat just seems to hit everything perfectly. You can't kill him. He hits his Ubers. His comms are fine. His comms are good. He's an intelligent player. He just has everything. He just wasn't on a team that was ever going to win the season.
Fair enough. I only voted for 2 people, Nox and Miralyn. I didn't want to vote for a third. I didn't think Amari will play that well. I didn't really think Hat played that well this season. I know he's got the potential as a medic to do well, but I didn't really see enough of him maybe to see what you saw there. I know he can do that, but did he actually do that this season? I didn't think so. Maybe Cadus, did you think Hat did enough this season to be in the medic nomination of the season?
I personally nominated him. I had a different perspective on it to most people. As a medic, I think he put in a real good performance, but kind of just let down by the team a lot. He has a very Hat knows exactly what to do most of the time. It's actually the same for Miralyn, only you didn't see it with Miralyn this season because his team was very good. They know exactly what to do when they analyze things on a very deep level. So when things go outside of their analysis, they make these mistakes that look like basic errors, but it's really down to the team play. Having played with Hat, I think he does deserve a nomination. And to the people in the chat asking if I can nominate my teammates, the answer is yes, because I do this as a Pirate Radio host, not as a player.
Cadus is a neutral category. There's a set number of players from each team that nominate, and then we nominate on top of that.
Yeah. To
make up the nominations, yeah. So Cadus isn't included.
It would be pretty hard for us to be, unbiased going into this and talk about everything if Cadus couldn't then nominate his own team going into it. So
I'd like to point out, moving into the conclusion, is that Hat didn't get nominated anyway, so it's not a bias for people in chat saying it's a bias.
One of the reasons I actually put Hat down was just because even though Hat might not have played that great this season, there's such a clear and obvious gulf in the medics. There's a top 3 medics, and then there's nothing. Admirable bridges the gap. He has a lot of weird gaps in his medic mechanics that don't make him on the same level as those 3. And while Hat might not have shown the best of himself this season, there's such an obvious gap between the medic skill in this game, with Admirable kind of bridging the gap, I think.
There's glimpses you see with Hat this season which show his class above everyone
to be clear as well, I think Amaro was very good, but I think when you watch him, there's just such obvious like key faults in his play. I think he makes up for them with being like a general really good like all-round team player with his calls and like organization. But
He's
in his actual
positive, just
yeah,
positivity and comms
in his
adds a
actual
lot.
medic play, there's just like with the drops and the just the weird mistakes.
Miss Ubers, I think it
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
they're so much
So,
more prevalent than in the other top three medics, and that's what separates him from them. But after those four or three, depending on your perspective, there's just such a huge gap that I felt had deserved a nomination just because there's such a clear difference in the medics. Like,
so as in the actual nominations, no one outside of the top 4 teams medic got a look in at all. Like
they shouldn't have either. It's just such an obvious gap at the moment, and it's something because I'm looking for a medic at the moment. It's something that's been I've been made all too aware of. Like, there's just a huge skill gap in medics, like beyond any other class, a huge skill gap.
Well, there were like people that I thought had like the potential to do it. Like Evil Moon last season looked, or maybe the season before, when he first came in and played with TLR, he looked like he had the potential to become, push his way towards becoming like F2 sort of thing, that like perfect sort of medic. But like he seemed to drop off last season, and now he's completely gone off the radar from there. But
Evil
obviously there's
Moon's
a
very
massive difference.
inconsistent from what I find. Like he has games where he's unhittable, and then he has games where he can't do anything but eat rockets. And that's not what you want from a medic. You'd rather him be in, like the Nox thing, where he doesn't excel at everything, but he's so consistent in everything he does. You know what you're going to get. And that's what you want from a medic. You don't want a show pony.
That's very true. How many nominations did Hat get? Because obviously Nox and Mirrodin had 15 and 14 apiece, so they well at the top. And Maribor only had 6. How many did Hat have?
Had 4, so it wasn't even a mile away, but it was still. Considering 18 people were nominated, 2 votes is kind of like quite a difference, really. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's go into the MVP / carry of the season. Let's do that one first. Xavi, do you want to go into who you vote for your carry of the season? Bear in mind, everybody, the nominations this time around, everyone had 1 nomination each, I think, wasn't it?
No, everyone had 3 for MVP, sorry.
Oh, for MVP it was 3, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's only
wow, so no one really got any, no one was outstanding at all in the MVP character.
I was about to say, there were 16 different players were nominated in total for MVP of the season, which is, a massive variety compared to what you think the carry should be. But I voted for Kyler, Cadus, and Harblue. Just because, as good as Pokemon were, they wouldn't be the same if Kyler wasn't constantly making plays and outplaying everyone in one-on-ones. Like, if that wasn't a factor, Pokemon wouldn't have had any plays to go off of, and they wouldn't have any like DM to back up their initial plays, any like clear up. Cadus, without if BFF didn't have Cadus, they wouldn't have a cooler, they wouldn't have their main damage dealer or anything. And with Harblue, the same thing. He called like obviously I worked for Doctrino a few times, and I just noticed how much influence Harblue had. Not just on like when he would comm something, you don't just hear the comm, he'd also teach you something about TF2. That sounds really fucking gay. But
Jesus Christ.
Yes. You know what I mean? But you'd learn something about
learn while you play.
You'd learn something you weren't previously thinking about.
I only actually voted for 2 people in this category. I thought it was really hard. Like, not that many people really stood out that far above in their teams. Like, maybe thinking back, I could have voted a 3rd, and that would have been Cadus, but I didn't actually vote for him. I voted for Kyler. Obviously, he carried his team like fuck. And then the other person I voted for was Cookie. Other than the final, he carried Broda pretty hard, is what I felt. And it was just the final he didn't. And I almost didn't vote for him in this section because of that. And maybe the next section, maybe the same sort of thing covers it. But the main thing is that I remember I casted the CC game, and he was like 15 frags ahead, I think, on one of the maps in the CC game in the playoffs, and that's why I voted for him here. Cadus, who did you put in?
Actually, I thought the opposite to you. I thought this was the easiest category by a mile.
Really?
Yeah, I put Zebo and Kyler. For me, Zebo and Broda. No Zebo, no team. Simple as. If Zebo hadn't been in that team, there wouldn't have been a team at all. When you have that group of players, like it takes something quite impressive to keep everything together, because you have Cookie, who's like a mute. You have Tech, who can barely speak English. You have Miralyn, who probably shouldn't speak English. And then you have Bibbon calling when he wants to, when things are going well, in my experience, and not much the rest of the time. and whoever the sixth player was, so Zebasai, and then you have Zebasai, and without him, there's a reason he takes all the heals and plays like an American pocket. It's because if he's not at the center of that team, then there isn't really a team at all. And for Kyler, just like an outstanding performance and a mediocre team. Like they wouldn't have been the team they were without his performances. Like you could put Cookie in that same category, but at the end of the day, it's a different tier of play. Like Broder are a top team, so what it takes to carry Broder is a bit more than like one player getting a lot of kills. It takes something a bit special, which I thought Zebasai brought in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like Xavi, do you want to go into where all these 16 players went, or maybe not all 16? But
Yeah, I was like, it was pretty sparse. The only players who got more than 2 votes apiece. Well, Tavik got 3, narrowly missed out on nominations. Then a joint second were Cookie, Kyler. No, sorry. Yeah, Cookie, Kyler, and Zebasai, which is kind of confusing in some ways because Zebasai and Cookie are both on the same team. And then Cadus won with 6 votes.
right. So they have 2 carries. None of Epsilon's players have been voted as a cat.
Well, they've been voted, but
They
not
can't
to the
be.
same degree. Like Stefan got 2, Mike got 2, Nox got 1, Numlock's got 1.
On a team that good, you can't
Bash
highlight
got
one
1.
person. And, like,
Yeah, it's different.
like
It's
you
different.
saw, like Bash is one of their best players, but they took him out. They won anyway. Like
Yeah.
they're just that good. You can't pick one person and say they carry this team.
Like, if
That's
there's
why
not,
I couldn't vote for anyone in Epsilon either, because
Yeah.
everyone's so good that on their days, one of them will carry everybody else, and it doesn't really matter who's playing well; they'll still play well as a team. Like it was so
it's
hard
like
to
it's
vote
like
for
a
anyone from
rotation
Epsilon.
system between who wants to be a good player that day. It's whereas like other teams, like
Someone has to step up all the time.
I was about to say, like if Kylie doesn't step up for Pokemon, no one's going to worry about playing them.
Oh,
It's like,
something
it's
else.
a rubbish day.
Something else I wanted to add was I thought Ips deserved a shout in this category as well. Again, I didn't vote for him just because I thought Zeb and Kyler were such obvious candidates. But I think Ips deserves a bit of like the same credit as Zebasai gets. I think there are more people in CC than in Broder that like think about the game like Admirable. Also puts a lot of thought into things. But I think Ips does a very similar thing for CC that Zeb does for Broder. But he just gets a bit more help with it, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't nominate Ips. But like, just I didn't nominate him. I think he deserves a shout out for it anyway because like
It's
he
probably
was
worth
vital.
pointing out that Brago and T-Mac aren't the most vocal of players either. So like Ips
Yeah.
has to try and
Like
bring
Ips had to
them into the
teach
game a
Brago
bit
how
more.
to call, as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware. Like he had to convert him from like German
I've
style
played,
calling.
sorry, I played with Brago, and he doesn't really say anything other than I hit a pipe. But
I think he does
that's
now.
not what you need. Yeah, and obviously that's what I mean. Like when I played with him, like a couple of like when I played with him, like I-46, like last year summertime, there wasn't any really comms at all until he did like a noticeable amount of damage. Like he wanted someone to finish, but you need more than that from a demo who can do so much in a team.
Yep.
That's fair enough. Let's talk about the last category we have even it's the overall best player of the season. I honestly, when I was there, this found it really, really difficult still. I was tossing up between a bunch of players. I was so close to voting for Bash in this section. This is what I meant earlier. So close to voting for him. Other than the fact that he didn't play in the final, I just felt like physically couldn't vote for him in a section like this because of that. I ended up going for Cookie in the end, like for the same reason I voted for him in the carry of the season. Like, I felt he played so well other than the final. So maybe I should have voted for Bash in that sort of sense, but that's why I went for Cookie. Cadus, who did you vote for best player of the season?
Mike.
Mhm.
It was kind of tough. Stefan Bash, I felt deserved it as well, but kind of had to look at the comparisons. And when you compare Mike to the other soldiers, he stands out so much more than like Stefan and Bash do compared to like Cookie and some of the scouts. I mean, I still think Stefan and Bash could just as easily have taken this for me, but just because of like the gap between Mike and the other soldiers, he takes it for me.
That's fair enough. Xavi, who did you vote for?
I went for Zebo just because I guess it's kind of I don't know, like Epsilon just seemed like the obvious choice on a lot of reasons. Whereas I think it's easy to be in the top position, in the comfortable position where you know you're the best, and you know that no matter what you do, it's kind of all going to work out. Like they have so many good players on their team, there's not too much concern. I really think, like deep down. Whereas with Zebo, he's really had to go above and beyond to pull his team up to the rest of the level that Epsilon are on. And I think that's a lot more impressive than Epsilon just maintaining their level, like Zebside bringing Broder up to a similar level.
It's fair enough. Do you want to go into the nominations then and see?
Okay.
Who's close to them, stuff like that.
There were 9 players nominated in total, with 1 vote apiece. Bash got a vote, Braga got a vote, Nox got a vote, Ips got a vote, Numlock got a vote. Zebosai got 2 votes, narrowly missed out. Stefan got 3 votes, and will be nominated. And then Cookie and Mike got 4 votes apiece, and will both be nominated as well. I want to point out, just in all of that, considering each person nominating got 1 vote, out of the 18 possible votes, Epsilon got 10 out of 18. So it just goes to show how well-rounded their team is compared to everyone else, really.
How many did Broda get? 6. Was it
Broda
just
got
Cookie and Zebo?
2 for Zebo and 4 for Cookie. Yeah, but 2 players.
Yeah, just 2 players. Wow,
And
that's really impressive. From
then
Epsilon.
CC got 1 for Ips, 1 for Brago, and the rest for Epsilons.
Yeah, it just shows how strong their roster is this season, and off the back of the last summer LAN and putting together this super team, and it's just stuck together, and they're still absolutely insane. Hopefully they stick together until the next I series and destroy the Americans, from my point of view. But that's it from our awards, guys. Or have I missed some? Have I not got some? What's happened? What have I missed?
Pirate Radio Awards for we kind of had this category for worst overall player, player who was most carried, and most overrated player.
Okay, I didn't get this list, so I haven't voted for this. So you should probably go into. You should host this part, Zabby.
I was about to say, not a lot of people wanted to vote for these awards, or presumably political / being a massive vagina reasons. I don't like. There was also, out of the people who actually voted, a lot was a cop out where they go, "I'm going to vote for my friend who knows he's my friend in all the categories, and it'll be funny if he gets nominated." For example, Admirable, who voted for Retchok for all the categories. I'm sure that's very funny between the both of them. But, yeah, I was about to say, what we actually wanted to know was who people genuinely think is bad at the game. Which takes us to, most carried was the only category that had a real winner between everyone. Whereas a few players who got a vote here and there, but Mitzi got 3 more votes than anyone else for most carried.
Okay, well, that doesn't really feel that bad. Obviously, the rest of the Epsilon is kind of a bit ahead of him, as everyone would say. So that doesn't. It's not really that's a bad thing from Mitzi's point of view. It just says that Epsilon's team is insane, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anyone else you'd want to put in for carried? Because I put Admirable for carried of the season, just because I thought everyone else was on a slightly higher level.
I don't know. It's not nobody that jumps out right now straight away. Maybe it was the beginning of the season. Rib, he didn't have the amazing start at all. Yeah. One of the games I swear I casted, he had 6 frags overall in the game. But having said that, I think Cadus had a game where he had 3 frags in it. So maybe I
know what you mean about Rib. Rib really certainly has to up his game to meet the standard his team wanted,
yeah.
Compared to where, say, Zebsai and Cookie were, and Merlin were for the rest of their team, and Tech as well. All these players are hitting the best of their category. Rib was never really a contender for Demoman when Demoman's the most important class.
Yeah, but then he does play a different style of Demoman to every other European Demoman. He plays that more, non-pocket role away from the medic sort of thing, less heals style. So that's why he shines less than the other Demoman.
I still feel he was on, especially in Demoman you can see the head-to-head in the rollout category. You can see that head-to-head a lot clearer than you can in other categories. And I felt for a long time it took Rib a while to get back into the fray as an equal contender.
Yeah, definitely. Cadus, do you want to chime in here, or are you going to be politically correct and not say anything?
Cadus is
he gone?
He's subbing out because he feels really ill.
Okay, well,
I say subbing out and there's no one subbing in. He's just gone. He's really ill.
All right. Well, I have to make a phone call as well. So maybe we should just save these Pirate Radio Awards for another episode, and we can actually think about them slightly better than just on the spot right now.
I don't know. There's.
Was there one more you want to talk about?
Well, no, it's just because for worst overall player, there was beside the Joke Awards, there was a lot of variety in some people vote for players who like genuinely weren't as great as game as others. Like Crit Knight got a nomination, Snippis, Cowho. I got a nomination. You never play.
That's your own fault for putting yourself in.
Well, I couldn't help because if I was to say Brago wasn't getting a Prem debut, I had to be the thing, you know.
See, yeah, okay, fair enough.
So you know what I mean. But yeah,
anybody else?
the players who got more nominations were Exxon got 2 and Quad got 2, and also in one of the responses, considering all I wanted was a name, not a response, there was quite a damning review of Quad saying he was lazy, always late, a disgrace to Prem, and that they were glad he was gone again.
Was that Cadus or Bevan? No, I'm
I'm not revealing who it was.
Don't point anything because that's
But yeah, it was neither of them. But it was.
Oh wow.
It's,
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's quite a damning review, and yeah, disgrace to Prem is the one that stands out. But I kind of have to agree. Like when you look at the players who were nominated, Exxon and Quad got the most nominations, not by a lot, but still. I can only presume the main reason they stand out is for their poor sportsmanship. Like Exxon stopping twice on a rollout to say he hates the other team, basically, in not as many words. But, you know, to stop twice on a rollout to highlight that is pretty extreme compared to the rest of how TF2 matches and PWs go. Like most high-profile matches are quite light-hearted in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like outside the actual
fun. It's a
competition.
game.
Yeah, like outside the actual competition of wanting to win, people don't really hate each other. Like people don't really get that mad. But then Quad is so irresponsible and lazy. He kind of
like as Cadus has said previously on Pirate Radio, when he's like half an hour late, but didn't he say at one point he was half an hour late and then he was in a League of Legends game and didn't want to quit the League of Legends game to come and play TF2?
So I'd say like it's not even because I made exceptions if people want to nominate themselves for bad awards of their teammates, but that wasn't from a BFF player. That's from other teams who come to Squad so late that they don't want to play with him. Like Ips is spamming smileys in chat. It's not a player from CC either. Like this is a universal thing that people know.
Yeah.
that the Quad's so late, it's an inconvenience to the whole of Prem.
Yeah, so it's not even just an inconvenience to his team. It's pissing off every single team that he's playing against.
It's just professionality. If you're going to be in one of the top 4 teams, you need to have a certain, not to turn up 35 minutes late and be in a League of Legends game. That's kind of an extreme example, but it's still just insulting to the rest of the teams, really. Like, it's definitely. You valuing your own time so much above everyone else's.
Is there any other awards you want to talk about here at this point?
There was a most overrated, but that got split between a lot of people as well. That got very much.
Maybe if there wasn't any real outstanding players in that, then maybe it's not worth pointing out. If it's just single votes or 2 votes, then it's not really worth pointing.
Yeah.
I think the last time around it was much funnier because there were people that you expected to play really, really well, like Mike, for example.
So I'll tell you that Mike got an overrated vote. Like lots of players who got. Like, if you want to talk to people who got overrated, Harbley got one, Brager got one, Merlin got one, Mike got one, Tavik got one. All sort of players who you wouldn't necessarily put in that category, but
all of those players mentioned were players that
also
either voted for for their own classes or was very close to voting for their classes.
It's because overrated are very
personal.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like if like people vote for Mike. But not like I remember last season or the season before Mike won it, and no one was saying Mike did bad, just that everyone thought more of him than they should from that season.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean you've done bad. It just means you've not done as well as everyone thinks you do, which in a way is a compliment because everyone thinks more of you. But it's difficult to pin down.
Right. Well, on that note, I have to go, Xavi. So. Thank you very much for joining me, Xavi, Cadus, and everyone tuning in. I think we've got quite a few viewers yet again, so thank you very much. Please, if you're still here, please go over to Sean Bud's stream. It's Tip of the Hats, I think, is the stream. If you go on Watches TV, go over there, go support them, go donate.
It's for one exactly 3,850 viewers ahead of us right now. If you might notice it, I'm not sure. You might be able to pick it out.
Yeah, so please go over there. Please donate to their charity as well, guys. But thank you very much for joining us for the ETF2L Awards. And do go and vote. The awards will be up
On
on
ETF2L.
ETF2L tomorrow, I would assume.
Either,
They're all the
even
ETF2L
now
ones,
or
none of the Pirate
shortly.
Radio ones. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say, David?
I was about to say, no, just either now or very shortly, the awards will be live on ETF2L.org. So go vote.
Awesome. Well, that's it from us, guys. We'll see you probably next week when we announce all the winners for the awards. Peace out.